Welcome to this episode of Middle School Speaks. Today we are talking about compensation for college athletes. Student athletes are getting paid in the NCAA, National Collegiate Athletic Association. After a court settlement, the NCAA paid $2.7 billion to former and current athletes over 10 years starting in 2016. I'm one of your hosts, Elta, and I'm arguing college athletes should not be paid.
I'm Kim, and I'm also arguing that college athletes should not be paid.
I'm Josh, and I'm arguing that college athletes should be paid.
I'm Max, and I'm also arguing that college athletes should be paid.
Here we go with point one. The effect on mental and physical health of college athletes. There's already enough mental and physical health on college athletes' body, so why are we putting more with money and management? Some athletes may suffer from mental or physical damage. That could lead to them having troubles in the long run.
Athletes will be way less stressed if they think they're going to eat tonight. That's like saying, even though I don't have money to get food, I'd be way more stressed if I did have the money to buy my food for the night. It's clearly not a good example for how college athletes should be responding to this new environment.
As a student going into playing a sport at a college, they should start to understand that they're going to have to figure this stuff out. Because when they get out of college, they're going to have to do all their stuff by themselves.
Also, they should have some notice. Like in high school and then middle school, you can get a job at 14. So they should have some money, and their parents will probably give them some money just to help out with that.
86% of college athletes live below the federal poverty line. So that being, they probably don't have extra money at home, and all the money that they are earning will probably be going towards their families and supporting them.
According to a 2017 NCAA survey, also, D1 athletes spend 2% of time at a job and 35.4 at sports activities hours a week. Okay, so now let's go on to our point one. College athletes get a sense of financial awareness if they were paid. According to an ESPN documentary, Broke, around 60% of NBA players are broke within 5 years of retirement. According to that same documentary, about 25% of Division I athletes reported food poverty in the past year, and almost 14% reported being homeless in the past year.
If this is something a college athlete wants to study, they will study this in school.
Also with that, if they don't get paid, then they won't have to worry about all this money. Like, for instance, just a person in the NBA, which is older, they went from playing with LeBron on the top of the world to homeless with nothing to this day.
So these are all very talented individuals to be able to play sports in front of millions of people at a level multiple days a week for some sports. Nobody wants these talented individuals to fall off a rock and just lose all their money. If they had a chance to handle still a large amount of money, but still a small enough that's not as big as if they were going to go pro in their sport, they could be able to gain a sense of financial awareness, and they could also be able to, it can also help them with their academics by having less time that they have to work, and they can also help them with their physical health by letting them get better equipment for themselves, better food.
Some athletes, on top of handling school and sports, may not be able to handle dealing with all the money that they're getting put on themselves.
That's like saying, well, I'm homeless, but now since even though I'm homeless, it would be a lot easier. This is a lot easier than if I had the money to go and rent an apartment.
But how are they homeless? They have dorms in college.
Not all players are on scholarship.
Yeah, but wouldn't they just pay the scholarship? Because most families have funds going up to college.
Yeah, most families. There's still 86% of Division I athletes live below the poverty line.
You can also get a financial aid to help pay for school.
Yeah, but they don't offer. Not everybody has the opportunity to get financial aid. There's a limited amount per year.
As we go for point two, college athletes are going to focus on their paychecks more. Going into it, if they know that only 2% of college athletes make it, then they should have some sense of a job before to be making money to help them with their after college.
It is, in some athletics programs, it is discouraged to have a job and take your focus away. Why would they do something that's going direct against their coaches say? Coaches are role models, and they can have lasting impacts on people's lives. They are unpaid workers, otherwise known as slavery, which was abolished in the United States of America over 100 years ago.
A student athlete has to have at least a 2.3 GPA to keep playing.
I have met some college players from camps that they have to like leave this camp to go do academics. And on their side, Max and Josh's, I feel like they can manage that on their own, and then putting money on top of it depends on the person. Like they can either have a lot of trouble with that and lose all the money by buying stupid things like trying to be a star and buy a bunch of chains or cars or whatever. But then also some of them can be smart. So it can go either way.
What you do is going to affect you, and that's where some people may have to take that, like, going down.
And they shouldn't have to not pay them because it's only a couple players that can't manage themselves.
It is not only a couple players. There's over 60% of NBA players go broke, and over 80% of actual athletes go broke after that set amount of time, 5 years.
Well, I feel like it's because it would be like, it's like saying like you should be able to that information, and now you should be able to manage your money and be smart with your money. If you're not smart with your money, that's the problem. If they're buying all these chains and stuff, like I said before, then it just gets harder and harder and harder.
After players, when people get older, they do get more responsible. And if a player doesn't get responsible and can't handle their money, that just goes to show that they may not be able to make it in the real world after college. They need to see that doing this can harm them.
So as like we know 2% of them make it, then they should have some sense or to be taking classes that have some sense of what they want to do if they don't make it pro.
Not all purchases are flashy. A lot of these athletes, like I've already mentioned, live below the poverty line. So they do not know how to manage even a smaller sum of money. A lot of the purchases are, oh, my mom needs a house. But my brother needs to go to college. None of them are really flashy purchases. They don't know how to manage their money, so they're willing to give out handouts. It's the same thing with the lottery.
People coming out of poverty, they should see that they don't have just money to go spend on things. They should see that they're going to have to have a budget and use what they need, so they're not going to just spend all their money.
It's not their problem. That's not their fault. You can't know it until you get put in their position. They've never managed even a sum of money, probably over $1,000. How are they going to be able to manage a larger sum of money if they eventually go pro? The minimum NFL salary per year is $950,000. That's not infinite money, but that is a lot of money to make per year. But the average NFL career is only 3 years long.
But think about it. If they're smart enough to be in college and maintain a 2.3 GPA, which means you have to be able to, well, the scholarships from sports, most of them are a full ride. So if they have to keep a 2.3 GPA, they should have somewhat notice on how to manage money, or at least have the brains to not be. I get what you're saying with like not all of them are flashy, like with like the helping their family and stuff. But that's not all reasonable. That's some. That's not all of them.
I believe that, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that a 2 GPA is a C. So a 2.3 is probably a C+. That's not that good of a grade.
Actually, I looked it up and it did say they have to maintain over a 2.3 GPA.
Yeah, so if a 2.3 is like a C+.
That's like a B.
Yeah, that's, well, a B-. It's not the grade. It's a good grade, but if they're striving, they're throwing all their effort to get a B- in all their classes, that's good grades. They're doing good, but they probably...
Which means they'll have an understanding.
Well, first of all, they're passing the class still.
They got into college.
A lot of them they don't take their own notes. A lot of them, they have to, for team travel, the schools don't stop the classes. I know this because my dad D1 wrestled, and when he would travel, there would be graduate students in the class taking the notes for them. So a lot of them, it's not all their work.
And actually, that's a cool fact, and I didn't know that. That's kind of cool that your dad was a D1 wrestler too. Yeah, I also agree, but then they're not always traveling. Like in the off season, they're still in their classes. Am I wrong?
No, they are, definitely.
There's a lot of online classes too that they can take to keep up and do their skill work.
Like VLAX and stuff like that.
Yeah, there is a lot of things that they can do, but when they do travel, it's not all their work. So to maintain a C or something when they're not doing most of the work does not seem like that hard of a deficit.
And I know you were talking about balancing, like both of my parents went to college for sports. My mom was D1 volleyball, my dad was D3 what's it called, lacrosse. Back then,
So-
they didn't get paid for sports, and they were easily able to keep up with school. And
correct-
now they have
Also, my dad was also a D1 baseball player at UNH, and I've always asked him how his time was and stuff, and he's never brought up any problem with money without getting paid or anything like that, and he lived a perfect life. Dad.
But also with that
Yeah.
stat of however many was it under the poverty line?
I think it was 86%.
Yeah, so 86% of people would be growing up. There's only 14% that aren't.
Yes,
So that-
I agree with that. Yes,
So that-
I agree with that. Anybody have any last points that we need to make?
I do not believe so.
Okay, thank you for being on another episode of Middle School Speaks, and thank you for listening to our podcast.